Welcome everybody to our third workshop in the series, and this week Jay's going to be taking us through InDesign. I know it's getting close to sort of hand-in time for a lot of folk, Christmas hand-ins, so sure, thanks for taking some time out of your day.
That's no problem.
I'm sure it'll make it all worthwhile for us, so I'll hand you all over to Jay.
So basically what I have planned to do tonight is to set up a board for like a presentation board, and also show you how to set up a document for design statements, that sort of thing. So we're going to start off by, once you've opened up InDesign, create new. This is more of a like very basic, but also kind of like teaching you tips and tricks kind of thing that I'm trying to do here. So we start off with it normally gives you your default page size, which is A4. So we're wanting to make it A1. So if you're like me, you can never remember. So I've Googled this in advance. So you change your page sizes. You've got your orientation, so landscape, portrait. Your margins are normally always set to 12.7. This gives you like a nice, clean, crisp white border around the whole page. I'll show you in a second. It basically, it gives you something to line up to. So you click create. Did I click create? Yep. So this pink box here that runs around it is your margins. So Alt and Control are your best friends for InDesign. You hold Alt and you can scroll in and scroll out for zooming in and zooming out. So first off, what we want to do is go to type and font. So this is us setting up what text we want to use, so that every time we make a text box, it's the same font. Saves you from going in and changing it every single time. So I'm going to use Macho, just because that's what I'm currently working in for most things. This panel here is where you will do most things, but then there is also your properties panel, your pages panel, and your library panel. I never really use the library panel. So pages shows you what's in the document. So if you add a new page, you've got more than one page. Very self-explanatory. So we're just going to start off with one page right now. We're going to draw a text box in the top corner. You just click and drag. So just get a title here, which is obviously quite small. As you can see, you don't have to highlight the text to change the font size. So as long as you've selected the text box in your properties, you should be able to edit it. So you've got your font size here. So you can make it 30. VA is quite a handy little tool. So VA here is the spacing between the letters. So you can make it look pretty fancy. So as you can see, it gets bigger the more you do it. If you don't want your text box to be massive, you can change it. And it should just lock into the top corner. Just dragging and dropping it in. So you want to have the same sort of text box size. You don't want to just have to constantly draw text boxes. If you hold the Alt key, click and drag down, it will copy it. So it's exactly the same already with the font sizes and everything set up. So just put this is basically the standard of what most years would have. So you have your name, and then holding Control again. If you hold Shift, it will stay in a straight line, either going vertically or horizontally. So when there's a green line, it's locked onto something. So say you want the same spacing between your text boxes, hold Shift and drag it down, and you see the green arrows on the screen. That shows you that they're exactly the same. They're like little guides. They're not permanently there. So it's December today. So you've got them all evenly spaced out. The problem with this is if you have a big space underneath your text box, like underneath your font, the spacing only takes in the size of the text box into consideration. So if you do this, you've got a much bigger space between them. Again, holding shift and clicking and dragging, you can line it up again. Text boxes are really simple to do. Say you want, if you've got your full layout, right? It's a pain in the ass to get it right. Why won't it zoom in? Say you're wanting a line to break up the page into your text column and then your main images. What you want to do is, these are your rulers on the side of the page. Click and drag and you will have a blue line on your page. Don't worry, it doesn't come up in printing. So if you do that, then that line helps you as a guide, form a guide for where you want to put more text boxes, and it should automatically lock to that as you get close to it. So because I don't have much text to fill it out, lorem ipsum is my friend. So you can see here, this is size 12, might be a bit difficult to read, especially if everybody's presentations are online. So you'll want to maybe change it to 18, makes it a bit easier to read. This little red plus sign here tells you there's more text than fits in the text box that you've drawn. So you're going to want to drag it down so you can see the bottom of it. Now you notice that everything is hyphenated. If the word is too long, it gets to the edge of it. So in your properties bar, if you scroll down, just untick the hyphenate box, and that should sort it. I like everything to be in line, so you've got all your justifies up here. Again, I like to make my text boxes the same size as the text, so that when I'm trying to lay everything out with the guides, it's laid out in a more accurate manner. So now we want to add some images to it. So I have a folder of images. I'm just going to take sun path diagram. So this is a Photoshop file. So instead of saving it as a JPEG, which then means you've got a Photoshop file and a JPEG, with InDesign, because it's still Adobe, you can drag and drop Photoshop files into InDesign files. So if I drag it here, you'll see that, and go back to InDesign, you'll see there's a temporary image where the cursor is. If you click, you can drag it to whatever size you like and it will format to that size. Alternatively, I'll just do it again. If you just click on the image, it will come in at the exact same size as the Photoshop file. So this is your sunpad diagram. Just line it up with the top corner, if it will want to. And the image box is quite a pernickety thing. So say you want this image smaller, and you know you want it to go from like here to here. So what this has done, if you double click in it, the brown line that goes around it, that's your actual image size. So you can always adjust it. Holding shift makes it stay, I don't know what the word is, like justified to, like it'll go in and out at the same thing, instead of, if you don't hold shift, you can move it up, down, sideways, and it will go all weird shaped. But say you've got your image and you actually want it to be bigger. If you click in this image box, there's an auto fit option. And that just means that no matter what size you make the box, what's already in the box will stay in the box. Because if you don't use auto fit, turning it, then as you can see, if you click off of it, you'll still have this box here, but there's loads of empty space. So autofit can be your friend and it can be your worst enemy. So we're just going to put that here. Click on auto fit so that we know roughly what size we're wanting it. Holding shift will get to, it'll stay, I'll remember the word eventually. Again, because it's not centered, because the image itself is bigger than the image box, we can actually click and drag and move it around till you've got it exactly where you want it to be. So what we want, if we look at our folders, we've got wind diagrams and we also have noise diagrams, if I can see it. Yeah, there. So we want them all to be lined up exactly the same. So we're going to hold Alt and click on our image and drag it down using Shift so that it stays in line. So you'll notice the green line is snapping to the bottom of the text box. The purple line is the center of your document. So that's it in the center of the page. And we want to do that again till it's at the bottom. And then it's a nice wee nifty trick. Saves you from doing a million different things. So we take this was huge. If we take our wind diagram and we just drag it and drop it into the box that we want it to be in, the image itself will stay in the exact same place. This is because I've set up the Photoshop files to all be exactly the same. And then it's the same with the noise diagram, just drag it, drop it, and it changes it. So the image itself, the background image of the aerial map stays the same, it's just the diagram itself that's changed. So then our next thing that we want to add is a PDF. If I can remember which one it was. This one. So we drag and drop it in. And this is actually a page from a design statement that I worked on. So we don't want all of the rest of the text and everything from it. So again, we just drag till we make the rest of it disappear. Because you don't really want your PDF text on anything or your Photoshop text on anything. You want your text to all predominantly be done in InDesign. So because these are 3 images, and they're definitely not the size we want them to be, what we're going to do is we're just going to make it the size that we want it, auto fit, so that we can then scale it however we want. So say we want to line it up at the bottom of that text, but maybe we don't want it as thick. We want to take auto fit off, and that's it, snapping to the center of the page. We'll just move that over a bit. Now, if you copy this over, to save you from dragging and dropping the PDF in again, just double click on it and you still have the rest of the PDF there. So click, hold shift, and you can actually move it across so that you're getting the next part of the image that you want. Let's do that again. So we've got the 3rd historic map. I held the wrong button there. So shift, drag it across. And they should all roughly line up. Again, it was something I did in work, so it might not be 100% accurate. So if we have all 3 of these and we want them all equally spaced apart, distribute objects is where we're wanting to look at in our properties file, and distribute horizontal centers. So that'll take the middle line from each 3 object and then space them all evenly across. Saves you a lot of time, saves you a lot of sitting trying to figure out exactly where it is. Highlight all of them and hold shift so you can move them across. Move them back a little bit. So if you want it, it works better if you zoom in. Your lock keys will find it a lot easier. So if you hold shift and it stays in the same line, you'll notice the little green arrows will come up if it wants to play. There, little green arrows, and that's it, equally spaced between your images and your text. Now, here's a quick way of seeing the full thing without having to constantly zoom out and zoom back in again. It also helps because there is an option for overprint preview, but it makes your file really heavy and it makes it really hard to work on. So if you can avoid overprint preview, I would avoid it. So essentially, all the images look a little bit blurry. That's because it's not an overprint preview. But if you hit Shift and W, it should go into full screen mode, where it is overprint previewed. So you can see our images are no longer blurry. But we probably want a box around these images so that they stand out a bit more, because they're kind of blurring into each other. So you just hit Escape and it'll take you back. So if we highlight all of these, we can see there's a fill or a stroke option. So your stroke is your outline and your fill is obviously the fill color. So we click black, it automatically goes to 1 point. Make it 2 point, make it 3 point, make it as thick as you want. I normally stick with 2 point because it's a bit easier to see. Shift window, you can see it again. It's separated, it's much easier to read. So now we're gonna make a smaller text box. It just it can be any length you really want it to be. Again, when you're making text boxes, they'll link onto whatever you want. I always make mine bigger than they need to be because it's easier that if you make it bigger, start typing, realize you're not getting enough space, you need to adjust it. So we're just gonna type in historic map 1. And say we want it to, justified to the opposite side. Scroll down. Be careful when you're scrolling in this part, because sometimes you can be over a box here, and if you scroll, it will start doing strange things. I normally justify my titles to the right. It's at 12 point, again, might be a bit hard to see, so you might want to make it 14. So we want the exact same thing under each box. So you just hold Control and Shift and it'll keep it horizontally in line. And then you just keep going until it locks in place. And then you can just double click in it. And then change the numbers as you please. Change that to 3. So you'll notice we've not really left any space past the margin for title boxes under these. That's okay, because all we need to do is move it up a bit, hold your Alt button, and then drag it down. And again, it will stay the same font size. You can make it italics, you can make it bold, you can make it however you want. So we just have wind. Nope, this is noise diagram. So you can see it's a bit close to the bottom of the image. So when you do view it, it will look like it's being cut off. You just use as long as you're clicked on it, you can use your arrow keys to go down. The menu thing came up because I used Alt to scroll. You need to click again into the document itself in order to do things. Otherwise, it'll start beeping at you and making weird noises. So see if we just make this text box a bit smaller and we highlight both of these, hold Shift, and it locks to the bottom of our margins. You can put things outside the margins, it will still print on it, but the margins give you like a nice clean white border around it without you having to really do anything about it. So now these are all separated in the wrong spacing. So we're going to use distribute objects again, vertical centers, and that's moved the middle one up. So these are now all equal, and it's kept the top one and the bottom one locked in at the corners. So again, you'll just copy these up, and then if you're close enough, if you've got the bottom of it on screen, you'll see that it will link up with the other ones. But if you copy it up and you don't actually have it on the screen, it won't lock onto it, which is quite annoying. I haven't quite figured out how to fix that yet. But then you'll have your titles there. Sometimes with the larger pages, it's more difficult when you zoom out. If you can't really scroll up and down. You have to make sure you're zoomed in, zoom out. So again, Alt is your best friend. Alt, scroll, fixes everything. Now we want to add one of these files. Aerial map, right. So again, we're dragging and dropping our Photoshop file in, but we want to make sure that it's a specific size. So if we're close enough to something else, it will automatically lock onto it. Again, dragging it out, you'll see the green line. That's automatically locked onto it. However, we still have this white space here, so I just want to tidy this up a little bit, bringing it closer, and then we can auto fit, and then click on the corner, hold Shift, and that's it, the exact same size. So maybe we don't want it the exact same size because it's a bit big. Just hold Shift and make it smaller. And let's lock it onto here. Because now with this diagram, we don't have a key. So I'm going to show you how to make up a color key, like the boxes with the colors in it, because it is slightly different from Photoshop. So you're going to click on your rectangle tool here and draw a box. Hold Shift and it will stay a box. You'll notice there's no fill and there's no line. So you want to click on fill. And we don't have the color that we want. So we'll just click on this one. Click new swatch because it wasn't available before. Double click on it and it will open up this pop-up box. Change it to RGB and then you get your picker tool. Just hold it, drag until you're on the color you want and then let go. And that's it, found the color that you want. You can name it with a color value or you can take it off and you can name it whatever you want. So let's name it light blue. Get caps lock on. Light blue. And it automatically changes the box. So this is the cursor that you want when you're clicking on anything. So click on the box again, hold Alt and Shift, and that's you got another one, Alt and Shift, that's you got your third one. So these are all unevenly distributed. So we want to evenly distribute them first. We want the lightest color at the top. Middle one, again, double click on the fill option. Add a new swatch and it will automatically put copy at the end of it. Double click on it. Then we want to pick the darker blue. And sometimes you have to double click on it to rename it. Dark blue. And then on your final swatch, you want to do that again. Sometimes it's easier to just duplicate the swatch. Again, it does the exact same thing. I'd clicked on the green one there, but double click on the color box, change it to RGB, take your picker, find your color, click OK, and we want to change it to purple. This is really handy when you find yourself with lots of diagrams. Instead of copying and pasting all the boxes, you can, at the start of it, you can create a key with every single color on it, and then it's just a case of clicking on the box because it saves the color. Instead of you having to go and pick the color again, it saves light blue, dark blue, and purple. All saved there. And then we just want to put text next to it. So this is main road. I cannot spell tonight. So we want, if you want it centered on your box, you want to try and get your, see that's it too small, so you get the little red plus again. You want to make sure that you're as close to the bottom of it as possible. You can zoom in stupidly close on InDesign. And then you click It holds shift and it'll keep it vertically, and then you've got your green line, which is your center. And then just copy them down the same way that we've been doing. Main road, well, it's actually a minor road. And then this one's a railway. And then just shift and window. Again, see, because I've used Alt, this is why this is coming up. So you want to make sure you're clicked in to the document, shift and window, and it takes you into the presentation mode. So you can see that it's easily read at the font size that it is. With online presenting, I found that this shift and W has been a lifesaver for trying to figure out what text sizes will be easily read on Collaborate, if that's where your main thing is. Because when we've been doing it, we've had to upload our documents, and if it's anything too small, it just looks like a black box and it's a blur. So it saves you a lot of time. A lot of the time now you will have to be doing text to explain your boards, because we're not having physical in-person presentations, so we're not able to stand and actually say what our boards are talking about. So you always want to make sure you have some text on it, but you don't want to flood the entire page with text. So one thing that every lecturer will always tell you is you need to have a north point. So I went and downloaded a north point. We want to stick it in here. Go back to InDesign. Draw our box. So with this north point, if we were to put it over, say, this diagram here, you've got a white border for it, a white background on it, and say we don't want that, we right click, edit with, and then we can open Photoshop. It'll just take a wee minute. So you can always edit images straight from InDesign to Photoshop. For some reason it's taking a wee while. So whilst that's doing that, we'll just continue with what we're doing. So say you don't want it that big, again, Alt Fit, click on the bottom of it, hold Shift, changes the size of it. So this is our north point. We want to unlock the background layer, and then select color range. We want to click on the white, click OK, and then hit delete. And that gives it a transparent background. So when we save it as a Photoshop file. Just put it as north point. Just wanted to quickly run through this because this is quite an easy fix for most things, especially if you steal images off of the internet that just have like white backgrounds. If you steal vectors. So this is still got our white background in it. So we now just go into our folder, we find the North Point Photoshop file and we drag it and drop it in, and it now has a transparent background, which means you can put it on top of images and it will be there. It's not a very good file itself, but you can stick it anywhere. Shift W, and you can see there's our North Point. Because this is an A1 board, it will be harder to see the smaller lines than it would be in person. So just keep that in mind. So you're working away on a board and you know you want to put images somewhere. This is a great tool, the rectangle frame tool. This is what I generally use when I'm setting up documents and knowing that I want to put images in. So the green line here is halfway between our text box. So if we want to put an image in, we want to make it a little bit smaller than halfway so that the images don't connect, and it's a temporary fill box. So when you do shift in window, it's not actually there, but you know for yourself it's a placeholder for any images that you want to use. So we're just going to use control, click and shift, bring it over. So we're wanting 2 images in here. Then we're just going to take a title box over, images of cafe, which we actually have because, preparedness. So what we want to do is we want to take our first image and just drag it and drop it in. So as you can see, it's obviously not filled the frame the way that we want it, because you can see from the thumbnail here, there's a lot more to the image than just the couple of lights. So click on the box, right click, fitting, and fill frame proportionately, and it will adjust the image for the box you've already put in. That saves you a lot of time than like double clicking it and changing the size itself. So we're going to do the exact same thing again with this other box. Drag and drop. You can see it's very pixelated, very zoomed in. Click in the box, right click, fitting, fill frame proportionally. And then we're just going to take these down to the bottom here. And then we've got a collage board. So draw to the size we want. So it's a bit smaller than the size that we want. So double click, we can make it bigger, or to save time, just click once, drag the edges in so that it no longer has this white border on it, and then click auto fit. There we go, we can adjust it to the size that we want. And then say you want another text box underneath, you can drag and drop that text box down. It means all the text is exactly the same. And then this is only because there's multiple extra lines to this text. So we want it to sit in the middle. Find the little lines, Shift W, and there we go. We pretty much got a presentation board done. I just want to quickly run over setting up a document page, because it's very different from setting up a presentation board. Presentation boards are obviously what most people are going to do, but you will eventually be asked to make a design statement, which a lot of people do it on Word. I've heard people using PowerPoint to do it. So I'm just gonna show you the quick way to create one in InDesign. So new document, and we're going to click on the default size because that's A4. Again, margins are set to 12.7. You can change them if you want. If you don't want any margins, you can take them off. So this is generally your home page, your front page. I have an image. So Photoshop file that, again, I've created. If I could, my brain's not working right now. Photoshop file that I created that I want to use as a cover. Double click and it makes it full size. So because this goes over the page, when it's printed, it will print full page. So again, Shift W shows you that is the full page, no borders, nothing. But maybe we don't want it as bold. Click in the image, and we change the opacity to 50%. That way, when you're putting text, so this is what happens when you don't set up your type beforehand. It will go to an automatic font, which means for every single time you do it, you have to click on your font down here, click on the one that you want, and then adjust accordingly. So that's the first one. And then what you want to do is go to Pages, and then this little plus button adds new pages. So I've clicked it twice so that we've got a double page spread. You'll notice the A in the top corner, that is a master page has been applied. So your master page is basically, if every time the master has been applied to a page, whatever is on the master page will appear on that page. So this is where you want to put your page numbers. This is the part that everybody gets really confused about. So double click on your master and you'll notice that there's no other pages. You're now in the master page. So you want to put page numbers in, text box, down to wherever you want. Before you type anything, go to object, type, insert special character, marker, current page number, and then just hit the escape key. You don't want to edit that whatsoever. So then you can just copy that across by holding the Alt key. The Shift key will keep it on the horizontal. So with this one, you can change the properties so that it's aligned to the right. And that means that your page numbers will go like on your left page, it's left aligned, your right page is right aligned. Okay. And say you're fancy, like, I don't know, anyone that if you're making like a magazine or something or a book, this is the line tool. Helps you draw straight lines. So all you want to do is draw a line across and you hold shift and it'll go straight. And then at stroke, if this isn't letting you change like 1 point or 2 point, you have to make sure you click on the stroke box and make sure it's black. So we're going to give it a little bit of space at the top. So this means if you're doing chapters, you can have the title of your document and your title of your chapter. You just want to make sure that that's in the center of the page. So that little blue cross in the middle of the line is the center of that line. This is the center of your 2 pages. So this is exactly where they will meet. And then just to come out of it, just double click on one of your pages. So now we're back on page 2. And you see we scroll up, we've got our first page, which has page 1 at the bottom of it. This next page has page 3, page 2, and every time you add a page, it automatically adds page numbers to it. Really simple. But say you don't want it on your first page. All you have to do is click on the page, right click, apply master to pages, and just click none. And it takes it off of it. And it still means that your second page is page 2, and so on and so forth. So say you're wanting to put a full image, we'll just copy this one down. So say you want to put a full image on this page, and we'll just drag this across to the middle so it doesn't go onto the next page. And you don't want this black line over the top of it. What you're going to have to do is create a new master. So you just right click at the top here, new master, and it'll be B master, number of pages, whatever. You again change it to suit yourself. So then it automatically takes you into the B master page, which is similar to the A master page. So what you want is you want the page number down here. So type, insert special character, markers, current page number, then click off of it, properties, click on it again, make sure that it is right aligned, and then you can really simply, if you want that line in the same place, go to your A master page, click on the line, Control C, go back to your B master page by double clicking on it, right click and paste in place. It's exactly where you left it. But say you don't want the line all the way across, all you have to do is drag it back to the middle. Double click off of it. So page 2, we don't want the A master page on it anymore, right click, apply master to pages, B master to pages 2. Maybe change it to 2-3. Then click OK. And that's it applied. So you no longer have the line. You no longer have a page number on your left-hand page. Shift window will show you exactly what you'll get. When you make something transparent, you get these lines across it. Don't worry when you print it or when you export it to PDF, those lines aren't there. It's just to show that it is a transparent image. And lastly, I just want to show you when you're exporting. So when you make it a PDF, file, export, because you have it as a 2-page spread, just stick it on my desktop, click save. You want to make sure instead of pages being selected, you have spreads selected, and that way you'll see both of the pages side by side. But if you're sending it off to get it printed, put it pages and then specify to the printer that you want it printed double-sided page, and there you go. So click export on that. Go to my desktop, and if I can find it, Untitled 2. You'll see we've got our first page. If I zoom out, that'll help. So first page, cover page, and then you've got your spreads, page 2, page 3, page 4, and page 5. And it's as simple as that. I hope that was easy enough to follow.
That was perfect, thanks very much. I'm sure there's a lot of things that everybody's picked up on if they've not used InDesign before. And it'll definitely stand us in good stead for the next couple of weeks.
It's nothing to be scared of. There's a lot of things, but if you don't know what you're doing, just Google it and there's always going to be an answer. The only thing that I don't know how I've done it before, because I used to be able to find the word count for the entire document. The only thing it doesn't do anymore is word count for the entire document. But there is another way to do that, but that's even more complicated than it needs to be. Just I don't know, Google it and you'll find an answer. If not, send me a message. I'll happily try and do screenshots, show you how it's done.
Eleanor's asking about spell check.
Oh, spell check, right. So we'll go with this one because I need to share my screen again.
If anyone's got any other questions, by the way, just fire them into the Q&A box and we'll try and answer them. So
this is our board page. So to spell check everything, it's really simple. Edit, spelling, check spelling, and it's going to give me loads of spelling errors because it's in Latin, but you've got tells you it's not in the dictionary, change it to, and you can change whatever you want it. You can type in and it'll change whatever. I hit escape there. Check spelling. And then you find it's change that. You can change all, and it'll go and it'll hunt for every word that you've spelled wrong and that exact same spelling, and it'll replace all of those words. It's basically the same as in Word, but you can go through, check all your spelling. There's absolutely no reason that you shouldn't be checking your spelling.
Anybody else got any questions? Just fire them into the chat. Copy sent. If not, this was recorded again tonight, so we're going to try and make them available to everyone in the next couple of weeks before Christmas. But if you urgently need to get a hold of it, if there's anything that you really want to get before the sort of Christmas hand-ins, then just give us a message and we'll try and send out the file to you. But if there's not any more questions, then thanks very much for coming, everybody. Thanks, Jay, for giving up your time.
That's no problem.
So that was the last one of the semester. So if you want to keep an eye out for the next workshops, we'll be starting up next semester. If you've got anything that you want covered next semester, then give us a message as well. But if not, we'll see you